This time, I am the reporter and our topic is all about the carbohydrate metabolism. The glucose molecule is the focal point of carbohydrate metabolism, commonly called blood sugar. Glucose is supplied to the body via the circulatory system and, after being absorbed by a cell, can be either oxidized or yield energy or stored as glycogen for future use. With the help of circulatory system, the blood sugar or the glucose is supplied in the different parts of the body. When sufficient oxygen is present, glucose is totally oxidized to a carbon dioxide and hydrogen. However, in the absence of oxygen, glucose is only partially oxidized to lactic acid. Besides supplying energy, needs glucose and other 6 carbon sugars can be converted into a variety of different sugars. Complement component 3, complement component 4, complement component 5, and also the complement component 7. That sugars, which is the complement component, is needed for biosynthesis. Some of the oxidative steps in carbohydrate metabolism also produce NADH and NADPH, in which NADH stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, or NAD plus hydrogen or H. So, it occurs naturally in the body and plays a role in generating energy, which the nicotinamide adenine dinucleotides hydrogen produced by the body is involved in making energy in the body. Digestion is the biochemical process by which food molecules, through hydrolysis, are broken down into simpler chemical units that can be used by cell for the metabolic needs. The goal of carbohydrate digestion is to break down all disaccharides and complex carbohydrates into monosaccharides for absorption, although not all are completely absorbed in the small intestine. For example, the fiber. Digestion begins in the mouth with salivary amylase released during the process of chewing. During the digestion of carbohydrates begin in the mouth, where the enzyme salivary amylase catalyzes the hydrolysis of glucosidic linkage. In carbohydrates, we have a monosaccharides and disaccharides, with the monosaccharides, which also known as the single sugars, which composed of glucose, fructose, galactose, which glucose found in fruits, vegetables, honey, and also it is also known as the blood sugars used for energy. Then the fructose is yes, it is from the fruits, honey, also the corn syrup, or also known as the fruit sugar. Then the galactose, which are found as part of lactose and milk. So we have also a disaccharides, which is the double sugar. We have also a what we call this disaccharides or the double sugars, which is composed of 2 sugars or the 2 monosaccharides that is covalently bonded to each other. So in disaccharides, there are 2 linked sugar units, the sucrose and lactose, also in the maltose, no? So in the sucrose, glucose plus fructose, or it is also known as the table sugar, which made from sugar cane and sugar beets. So lactose is glucose plus galactose, which is it is milk sugar found in milk and dairy products, and also the maltose, which is glucose plus glucose, double glucose, found in germinating cereal grains and product of starch breakdown. So in complex carbohydrates, there is oligosaccharides and polysaccharides or polysaccharides. So in oligosaccharides, we already tackle about this, which is it is a contains of 3 to 10 sugars unit covalently to each other, or it is the human breast milk source of fiber for babies, no, and unions legumes with asparagus beans, no. So and polysaccharides, it is composed of many monosaccharides, or it is a starch, no, so long chains of glucose units found in grains, vegetables, and legumes. So there is also a glycogen in polysaccharides, no? So glycogen is the highly branched chains of glucose units and body storage for form at carbohydrate. And complex carbohydrates, we all know that a fiber is the main source of fuel for the microbiome, and it allows it to stay diverse and healthy. Most soluble fibers is fermented by the bacteria in the colon, no? So our microbiomes to produce a short chain fatty acids, no? So which in turn are used as energy both for bacteria and human cells. So, carbohydrate metabolisms, glucose is a key player. So, at what I mentioned a while ago, that glucose is a blood sugar. It is also known as the dextrose of the body. Also, liver storage, which is the condensations into glycogen, hydrolysis for a release of glucose when needed. No, so in muscle storage, it is selfishly hoards glycogen. Glucose for energy, we have fuel most of body cells. It's preferred source for brain, nerve cells, and developing red blood cells. No, so cellular breakdowns of glucose, making glucose from protein, which is amino acid conversion, and gluconeogenesis, no. So energy is driven from glucose when it converted into pyruvate through a series of complex chemical reactions known as aerobic cellular respiration. So it is a three steps process that includes glycolysis, Krebs cycles, and electrons transport, no. So glucose is one of the simplest monosaccharides or the single sugar. So ketone bodies from fat fragments, which ketone bodies is or ketone bodies are a product of fat metabolisms and the livers, no. So a ketone body is a form when fat is broken down and turned into a fuel source primary for brain. Okay, next let's proceed for the carbohydrate digestions and absorption. So mouth, which is salivary amylase, begins digestions for starch, which stomach is none, and small intestines, no. So digestion of starch begin in the mouth, no. So saliva, which secretes salivary amylase, breaks down starch into maltose, no. So the mouth is the organs in which the process of digestion begins. So it starts the process of mechanical digestions by grinding the food with teeth, no. So the digestion of carbohydrates begins in the mouth. The salivary enzymes amylase begins the breakdown of foods starches into a maltose, a disaccharide, where digestions of lipids is processed. Okay, so in dietary reference intakes and carbohydrate digestion and absorptions, which the general terms for a set of reference value used to plan and assess nutrients intake of healthy people. So, dietary reference intakes or DRI are reference value that are quantitative estimates of nutrients intakes to be used for planning and assessing diets for healthy people. So they include both recommended intakes and reference value. Then the recommended dietary allowance is the average of daily level of intake sufficient to meet the nutrient requirements of nearly all 97% to 98% healthy people. So it is a nutrition policy statement issued by the National Research Council. So its purpose is to serve as a benchmark of nutrient adequacy. So the recommended dietary allowance can be used to determine what percentage of the populations is receiving sufficient nutrients and helps assess the nutritional adequacy of food. So in percent daily value or the DV is a guide to the nutrients in one serving of food. The constancy of blood glucose. Balancing within the normal range of 70 to 110 mg per dl, no, so balance meals at regular intervals, no. So in diabetes, insulin is either inadequate or ineffective. So it is caused by too much sugar in blood or too much glucose in our blood. So insulin is either inadequate, no, so or ineffective, no. So type 1 we have two types of diabetes, which is the type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. So and type 1 diabetes is believed to be caused by an autoimmune reactions and develops early in life, and the type 2 diabetes is develops over the course of many years, and it is related to lifestyle factors such as being inactive and carrying excess weight. So glycemic response, which speed of glucose absorption, level of blood glucose, and a return to a normal glucose level. So we have also a low glycemic response, which is desired. No, so the glycemic response to a food or meals is the effects that food or meals has on blood sugar or glucose levels after consumptions. It is normal for blood glucose and insulin levels to rise after eating and then return again so fast or too fast level over a short period of time. So let's proceed for the carbohydrates in the body. Homeostasis, regulating blood glucose levels. With too little insulin, the body can no longer move glucose from the blood into the cells, causing high blood glucose levels. No, so if the glucose level is high enough, excess glucose spills into the urine. This drags extra water into the urine, causes more frequent urinations and shirts. In glucagon, no, so glucagon functions is crucial to proper blood glucose levels. So problem with glucagon productions will lead to the problem with glucose levels. So low levels of glucagon are rare but are sometimes seen in babies, no. So the main result is low levels of blood glucose. So we have here a ketosis causes such as starvation, chronic alcoholism, uncontrolled diabetes, low fluid intake, low carb diets, blood becomes acidic and body dehydrates, no? So minimum 50 to 100 milligrams of carbs needed daily to prevent ketosis, no? So death occurs within 3 weeks if body remains in this state. So the symptoms of ketosis are they lethargic and fatigue, nausea and vomiting, constipation, acetone breath from high blood acidity. Next is the hyperglycemia. So hyperglycemia is the technical terms for high blood glucose of high blood sugar. So high blood glucose happens when the body has too little insulin or when the body can't use insulin properly. So high levels of glucose in the blood, no, it is in the hyperglycemia. Obtain proper diagnosis and causes of high blood glucose. So eat a proper consistent carbohydrate diet and possible diabetes medication. So we must avoid to eat sweet foods, no, because to avoid this kind of disease. So, and lactose intolerance is dietary changes, no? So, manage their diary consumptions rather than restrictions. So, the bacteria of enteritis happen when bacteria cause an infection on your gut, no? So the infections lead to inflammation in your stomach and intestines. If you have bacteria of gastroenteritis, you may also experience symptoms that includes vomiting, severe abdominal cramps, symptoms of intolerance, gas, bloating, diarrhea, and the prevalence is genetically determined. 98% Thais, 95% of African American, and and 93% of Chinese and 12% of Caucasian. So, what is the glycemic index? So, the number of classifications of foods based on their potentials to raise blood glucose levels, no? So, not reliable methods as Snicker bar is classified as low glycemic as 55, but that is not a healthy choice for a diabetic or someone wanting to lose weight, no? So Snicker bars, which is 250 calories, 33 carbs, 12 grams of fat, and 4.5 grams of saturated fat, and 1 grams of fiber. So the glycemic index is a classification of foods has been used as tool to assess potential preventions and treatment strategies for diseases where glycemic control is important, such as diabetes. So the glycemic load and index. So the glycemic response, no. So the glycemic index or GI is a measures of the ability of food to elevate blood glucose and insulin levels, no. So scores are compared with a standard, usually white bread of glucose, no. A food score depends on several factors. For example, ice cream, a high sugar food, ranks lower than baked potatoes, a high starch food. A glycemic response to a food or meal is the effects that foods or meals has on blood glucose levels after consumption. So it is normal for blood glucose and insulin levels to rise after eating, and that returns again to a fasting levels of short period of times, as what I mentioned a while ago. So, in glycemic index, the glycemic index of food is affected by individual differences among people, ripeness of fruit, vegetable, other foods consumes at the same time, no? So who might find these informations helpful for making dietary choices, no? So people with diabetes, those dieting, and athletes. So next is inadequate regulations of blood glucose levels, diabetes mellitus, no? So in diabetes mellitus, which is body either does not produce enough insulin or does not use insulin properly. So if our insulin is not functioning or not properly functions, we will it is possible that we will having a diabetes, no? So both genetics and environmental factors seems to be involved, no? So type 1 diabetes, no insulin is produced, insulin injections are required with diet. So it means we have to use an artificial insulin that will inject to us to prevent or to minimize the glucose in our body, no? So type 2 is some insulins may be produced, may be controlled by diet and or medications, no? So see diet and health chapters for more informations on DM according to this. Next is the functions of carbohydrates in the body. So, normal use of glucose, using glucose for energy, storing glucose as glycogen, sparing body protein, preventing ketosis, brain cells and red blood cells required constant supply of glucose. So, the functions of carbohydrates in the body is vital at every stage of life, no? They're the body's primary source of energy and the brain's preferred energy source. So carbs are broken down by the body into glucose, a type of sugar, and glucose is used as fuel by your body cells, tissues, and organs. So that's all my report. Our report to be contained, my report to be continued by my partner, Mr. Francis.